Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week's edition of the WrestleWatch podcast, the only podcast where we discuss free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I am Ryan.
I am Doug. Happy Sabrina Carpenter week to all who celebrate.
What?
She had a new album this week.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Well, listen, I am nothing if not up on top of all the pop girlies in the world, and Sabrina Carpenter topical. So
I mean, I feel like that there was a pop girly bigger thing that happened this week, but, you know,
yeah,
something that's actually more relevant to wrestling, actually.
there is, and we'll be touching on
Somehow.
all that. But
Yeah, the next section here is going to be about the Forbidden Door of Taylor Swift again. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I thought you were referring to Paul McCartney and Chris Jericho having a photo together, and obviously Chris Jericho being our pop girly.
Well, is he?
Perhaps
Uh,
is Paul McCartney a pop girly?
he's always been.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's start the podcast this week. As a reminder, this is WrestleWatch, where we discuss pro wrestling free agency, business negotiations, things of that nature. We don't do as much of a focus on in-ring wrestling, but we might touch upon it from here to there, especially with some of the topics that we have for this week. We're going to be discussing Chris Jericho and his possible free agency. We'll be discussing a bunch of women's wrestlers that have been going up, down, and around the world trying to get some contracts going. And we also have a little bit of a European stop where we'll discuss last week's Forbidden Door week in London and how that went. And additionally, we will talk about the free agencies of a few people that might have made some appearances over that weekend. How about we start with one Christopher Irvine himself? If they rename him in WWE, who knows what name they're gonna go with? I guess Chris Jericho still, right? So Chris Jericho possibly might be leaving AEW to go back to WWE. This is per reports from a number of outlets that feel like chances of him going might be going up. This is coming off of sourcing both within AEW and WWE, both sides thinking that it is likely that Jericho will be leaving AEW. How are you feeling about that, Doug?
So it's interesting. I think it's important before we kind of go into whether or not he will go or not. He's an interesting case because you could look at it from a talent perspective in terms of where he is on the show, and it would definitely, from that standpoint, it would definitely look like he's someone who's probably would make sense to leave because he's definitely has, some grown go away heat with a good portion of the audience. He's progressively moved further and further down the card, and even so, people still don't really want to see him around. They've completely taken him. The learning tree has completely disappeared. It's no longer mentioned for Brian Keith or Big Bill. So pretty much all mention of him is gone.
Yeah.
But he's interesting because he's also been someone who obviously who was instrumental with the founding of the company. And for a time, especially during the Elite CM Punk blow up, Chris Jericho was seen as someone that Tony Khan really relied on and listened to and got a lot of advice from, and was an important person backstage during that time. So he has a good relationship with Tony Khan in that regard. And if he goes back to WWE, I don't know exactly where he would be. I could see him being a Royal Rumble pop, and then not sure what he would do after that. But I don't see. I think it might make sense for him just because he is always someone who knows when it's time to leave or knows when it's time to change things up, and he's pretty good about that. And I think he's tried to do a lot of different things lately within AEW to try to shift that up, whether it's going to Ring of Honor for a while and being the Nueve or the Ocho. Obviously, when he then he did the learning tree. He does all these different things to try to freshen himself up, as he's done his entire career. But the last few in AEW just really not worked. So I think it makes sense for him to take a step back, look at everything and say, well, maybe I need to just leave the territory for a while. So I could definitely see that. And even if he doesn't necessarily do anything crazy in WWE, and I don't necessarily think he's going to, I could see him, maybe reigniting something with Kevin Owens when Kevin Owens gets back. But
let's go through this in two different fashions. First, let's look at. I suppose that we could go through your old flow chart that you have regarding the value of a talent. So, do you think that AEW still finds value in Chris Jericho? Just as simple of an answer as you can give.
I think they find value in him.
Okay.
I think Tony Khan finds value in him. Yes.
Okay. Do you think that WWE would value him more than AEW would?
At this point, yes, I think they would.
Okay.
I think, and it's funny to say that because I don't know what they would. I think that WWE in general is a company of moments.
Okay.
And they are, as a company of moments, the Royal Rumble pop is a moment that they would like to have.
Okay. So so both companies have value for him. You feel that WWE at this point would find him more valuable than AEW would find him. Do you think that AEW would try to outbid WWE despite finding less value in him just to keep him away from WWE?
I don't think to keep him away from WWE, but I brought up the thing about him being instrumental backstage.
Yeah.
I think that they might want to keep him for that purpose. Like if he may have some other off-screen role that he is fulfilling.
Do you feel that? Do you feel like that is though? Did you factor that into the value assessment that you had for AEW?
I didn't, and maybe I should have. And I guess that's the big unknown for me because I guess I don't know how much to value to put on it. So I would say.
Well, of course, Jake Hager this week said that there was high value in that, within Chris Jericho being a locker room. So like. Even somebody like, I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek, even somebody like Jake Hager, who had a lot of negative things to say during his negativity about AEW, was still, I suppose the term that the kids like is splizzing Jericho about his instrumental role. And, plenty of other talent in AEW have mentioned that Jericho has been pretty instrumental in booking. He is considered a confidant of Tony Khan. It's possible, though, that in the past year or so, especially since Jericho has been off screen the most of this year, that's possible that maybe Bryan Danielson has supplanted in that role, though. So that might change the calculations for the value measurement of Jericho as being a primarily backstage figure.
Yeah, and as you say that, I'm sitting here thinking on it. I think I'm going to say that I think WWE would still value him more.
Because of the nostalgia pop, essentially?
I think so. And I do think that role has probably... I think you're right. That role probably has diminished a bit. And I think that was largely during the period where CM Punk was still there and the Elite were still there. And Tony Khan had to, balance on this fence between the two of them. And Jericho was a good person to kind of help him do that.
Yeah.
I don't know that is necessarily needed at this point.
So your assessment of the flow chart as it stands is that you think that AEW might try to put an offer in that is possibly a little bit more than WWE, but you don't think that necessarily they will try harder than WWE would?
Yeah, this isn't going to be a situation where, Tony Khan's going to fight tooth and nail to keep Chris Jericho, I feel.
He has a good relationship with him. He seems to have a positive relationship with Chris Jericho. Jericho also famously still had a positive relationship with WWE after departing. So I think that my assessment also would when you were talking about the creative of what Jericho would do within both companies, I think that when we look at AEW, what's there left for him to do really on screen? Not much. On WWE, also not much. It's kind of the same thing, I think, that you would be looking for creatively for Chris Jericho at this point in his career, and both companies would be willing to do it, which is a grand retirement tour. AEW has done it before with Sting. I think that Jericho, even if you were to divorce his run within AEW, I think that if he was going to AEW for the first time now, you would still say, hey, yeah, this is somebody that you would want to do this kind of run for. But given the grander context of his place within AEW history, I think that they would absolutely give him a one final ride grand retirement tour like Sting got. I think that WWE, to counter that, would be looking at the John Cena retirement tour that's ongoing and think to themselves, okay, so who can we do next? Because as I think TKO would be looking at it, they'd be saying, okay, cool, so this helped us continue keeping the houses filled, right? That the houses...
It's been a success.
I think that's been a success in that measure. I think that the houses would have been worse for WWE this year without John Cena on the cards. They are hitting some of these markets 2 times this year, like doing Europe twice this year. And they're filling up the arenas pretty well both times, on the buzz of this being John Cena's last time in these markets. So I think that they're doing a decent job with Cena on that regard, on the business regard. On the creative regard, it's a different story. But they're willing to do the creative of a retirement run, and they see the value in that retirement run for somebody like Cena. I think that they're looking at who can we do next doing this? Who can we keep this ball rolling with? Their options right now within their company, not a lot of options within WWE. You could look at Brock Lesnar that they brought back and say, that is an option that you can do if you think it's time for Brock to hang it up, which, considering all of the extra affairs of everything going on with Brock Lesnar, it might be a good business move for WWE to finally put the nail in the coffin of Lesnar ever coming back by just doing the grand retirement tour of Brock Lesnar. You know, you might not like that as a fan. Some of the people that we have here listening into WrestleWatch might not like that, but I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense for them to do it, both on the sense of trying to sell tickets and the sense of, now we can just bury this, like, not bury the guy, but, like, you know, bury this issue. He's not coming back. He's over. It's done. It's dead. They kind of played their card with Goldberg. Didn't go well.
They have a few that, I mean, they could maybe do Orton. I don't know how long Orton has.
Orton was the other one that I was thinking of, but I don't know how long he has when you compare it to Jericho, who I think this is going to be his last in-ring contract coming up here.
Yeah.
I think that, like, yeah, it's essentially those are the names that we're looking at. Unless, you know, like, maybe when KO comes back, if he comes back, maybe he wants to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean...
But, like, KO isn't at the same level as Jericho or Orton is, I think, right? Like, unfortunately for KO in my heart is at the, you know, as a high level, but, like, I think that, like, for, like, looking at it as a business standpoint of who you're going to try to push as a promoter for a grand retirement tour, it's going to be your Ortons, your Jerichos, your Lesners, honestly.
Yeah, and to be fair, we don't know that Jericho's ready to retire.
Yeah.
He has not looked bad.
No.
Like, I mean, he hasn't looked like, you know, Tanahashi bad.
No, he still has knees, yes.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know where his mindset is right now. He may not want to stop.
Yeah.
Because he's also someone who just likes to take breaks and make his big grand return. So, you know, maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he wants another contract. So it's fair to say this maybe won't be his last. It might be his last full-time as a full-time roster member contract, but maybe he doesn't want to retire. He might be like Danielson, who, you know, is going to keep popping up here until he's 70, or how Danielson says it. So we'll see with that, but
yes.
should we,
Let's think about it as far as the tier list goes. Okay, so Mr. Doug, Dr. Doug, excuse me. Of all the Dougs in the world, you're the most doctorly. Where do we think that okay, so let's look at it phrasing.
Right now,
let's not look at it as like a factor of the tier list or what tier you want to put him at necessarily. But within a year, let's phrase it like the way that the tier list is built. Within the next year, if we're looking at all in 2026, let's give us a big, beautiful crystal ball moment. At All In 2026, do you think Chris Jericho is on that card?
No.
Okay, so...
do I think he's in the company? That's a different question.
Yeah, that's the next question then. Do you think that Chris Jericho is in AEW?
Still no.
Okay, so how about this? At the Royal Rumble 2026, do you think Chris Jericho is going to break the walls down?
I do.
Okay, so that is how many months from now? That is 4 months from now. 4 or 5 months. Yeah. So, where would you place him on our tier list of saying within 5 months you think that he could be in WWE?
So, I guess this is where maybe I differ a little bit, because I try to be more objective with my placement.
Yeah.
Than, like, subjectively, do I think he's going? Yeah, but that's just kind of my gut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not anything hard based on anything I'm seeing. But I do feel like as we get closer and closer and we still hear nothing about what's going on and everyone's quiet and we don't hear anything from him or see anything from him, it makes me think that a move is more likely. So I think we had him at possible before.
We had him at where did we have him? Let me review this right now on the live air. Okay, so previously we had him in remote. He was a remote chance to leave AEW and sign to another promotion. So within the next year,
yeah.
What are you giving the odds?
I'm moving him up. I think that I would go as far as toss up, honestly, at this point. I was gonna go possible. Just because I didn't want to, because a lot can still happen. And I'll be honest, do you remember when he did that? He started posting like photos of himself on the plane. He's like,
yes, he just did that this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever people do that, my gut instinct is thinking, okay, they're not going anywhere. Like, that's just me. Like, I see that, it's like, okay, now you're just like playing. But I don't necessarily think that's what's happening. But I do feel that way sometimes when I see that. So I'm gonna say toss up, but no, I'm gonna go toss up. Yeah, I had to talk this out in my head. I'm going toss up.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm gonna give it because of what you said there. Okay. I'm going to say I think that we have to be a little bit more, conservative. Because as you pointed out, he is working the sheets now.
Yeah. As
it were. He is going on social media and acting like he's starting to negotiate in the media. Although, as we saw with the last person that did that, with now Blake Monroe, Mariah May, that was more just to disguise the fact that she was 100% going to WWE, and everybody kind of knew it. So I don't think that it's 100% that Jericho is leaving AEW. However, yeah, let's just keep it one tier lower until we get more info, getting into closer to really Royal Rumble is like one of the milestones, but I think the bigger milestone is going to be a few weeks from now, on the 20th. Not WrestlePalooza. No. The other show. All Out is in Toronto, which, as we know, despite what stupid idiots say, is not where Jericho is from. He's not from Toronto. He's from Winnipeg. However, it is still Canada. And if he's not there, if he's not...
You're putting that as the show.
That is the show. I think that if Jericho is not at All Out, I would go up to likely, possibly likely. I would move it above toss up at that point for Jericho leaving AEW at that point, because like, look, if there were any moment to bring him back, it was either you had three big moments. I think you had All In. You could have brought him back there in the Casino Gauntlet match. They didn't. Okay. You had Forbidden Door. You could have brought him back, you know, like had him do one last match with, you know, Tanahashi, you know? He could have been on the other side of that match. Perfect spot for him. You know, a plunder match, a little fun, a little goofy. Perfect spot for him, right? Could have done that. He wasn't there. So, what's left? From here until the Royal Rumble for AEW, it is the fact that they're going to be in Canada. Right. And I think that if he's not in Canada for that show, it is Jover.
And it's the thing is that he's distracting to AEW fans right now in the fan base, because whenever he's on there, everyone just complains about his existence. Or
counter to that, did you watch the Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view?
I saw the last two matches.
Only
I've not seen the rest yet.
You only saw the last two matches.
Yes.
Okay. So, spoiler alert, spoiler zone. So he did not appear on the pay-per-view, despite some people thinking he would, which I think is kind of a ridiculous thing to think. Like, I think it's funny to be like, yeah, Jericho's going to show up. He's going to be Sammy Guevara's mystery partner. But, like, in reality, you're not going to bring Chris Jericho back after so long to, you know, appear first on an ROH pay-per-view as a mystery tag partner. Like, that's not where he's going to come back. So
if that were to happen, I'd be convinced that him and Triple H have heat. That's the only thing that would keep me thinking that.
But there was a promo earlier where Sammy Guevara makes a reference to Chris Jericho. So some people were like, oh, well, maybe he's actually fine with the company if Sammy's referencing him. Because you wouldn't want to tease that if there was zero chance.
Right.
So I don't think it's at zero yet for him returning to AEW. I still think that there was, I think, a decent likelihood that he would still return to AEW. But I think that it just feels like, as we were saying when we were looking at like the analysis of it all, I think that WWE just might value having that retirement tour more than AEW would value having the retirement tour and keeping him backstage. Like, once he's retired, he can go backstage at AEW again if he wants to.
It would be interesting to see if Sammy would stick with Jericho even if he left.
I think that Sammy Guevara is now doing something interesting finally again. Because again, this is something that is spoiler from the ROH show it's free on YouTube. Anybody can watch it. He turned heel again. Finally. He is now in La Faction Ingobernable, which I think is a great usage of his heat.
Yeah. It's also very funny because he famously had issues with Andrade.
Yes.
And Rush is obviously kind of buddies with him.
Yeah. So
it's interesting, and it was a good move. I didn't see it obviously, but I did read about it, so I thought that was a smart move.
I think it was a very smart move. I thought that they were going to pair him with somebody that was a heel. I was thinking he was going to go back to Don Callis' family, maybe. Bring Wardlow out, and that's how you're going to use Wardlow, is like have him on the pre-show for Dynamite, have him do some power bombs on some jobbers, and that's like a fun thing to put on the pre-show, right? So I think that this is a far more interesting direction for Sammy, though, is working with Facción Gobernable, have him be the English language promo person of the group, have him use his cocky heel heat in a focused, tranquilo manner. So, like, I think that's gonna work. It just makes it. It's something that after you see it, you're like, I can't believe they hadn't tried this before.
Yeah, because that's the thing. That was always the problem with Sammy Guevara and AEW, is that Tony Khan just seems so insistent on booking him as a babyface, and he is so very clearly not a babyface.
Yeah, I think that Sammy as a person is.
Sure.
He's
probably why Tony Khan wants to book him that way.
Yeah, like, it's like, you know, you look at Sammy and you're like, watch the vlogs and stuff, and you're like, Sammy, you're actually a really nice guy. Mm-hmm. You know? And then you watch him in ring and you're just like, you just have the most punchable face. Positively. Yep. And you mean that in a very positive way. So how about we transition now away from the tier list of Jericho, and we're gonna put him at the possible tier. I think is the way that our committee is voted between toss-up and possible. They're gonna lean towards keeping him at possible for now. How about we move over to talking about some alliterative things, female free agents. We have a bunch of them to chat about women in the world of professional wrestling right now, going between companies. As a quick rundown of the few that I want to touch on right now, and we can go in whichever direction you would like to go in from there. We have Bea Priestley is a confirmed signing to Stardom. They had a press conference and everything with Toru Okada, where Bea Priestley was announced as being exclusively signed to Stardom. Dakota Kai is still floating in the wind. I know that Sean Ross Sapp is pretty adamant that she'll be ending up in Japan. Isla Dawn made an appearance on AEW Collision during their Glasgow show. It's been reported that she is not signed to AEW at all, that this is a one-off appearance. We have Priscilla Kelly looking like she might do an appearance in Tokyo Joshi Pro, not signed to Tokyo Joshi Pro. Shayna Baszler is doing some indie gigs. Those are the ex-WWE ones, and I think that we can stop before we hit Maki Itoh by going through those names there. Who would you like to start with those names? Who caught your eye?
Let's we could do some quick hits with these ones for sure. So I think the first one I want to talk about is let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about Bea Priestley.
Yeah.
Because I think she's pretty straightforward in the sense that, you know, she's going back to Stardom, signing full time, so that makes sense. The one thing I do think it's interesting about that is that she was always like Rossi's star. Rossi loved Bea Priestley. Mm-hmm. And she is going back to Stardom and not Marigold. So another tip that maybe Marigold isn't exactly on as solid footing as we thought. And so I'm not surprised she's going back to Stardom. And I think we could talk about Dakota Kai with this as well.
Yeah.
So she talks are now that she is also going to be going to Japan, and which is interesting because if everyone was saying, oh, she's going to be a lock for AEW. And I think there's a lot of stuff that we can kind of glean from that. One, she has kind of somewhat indicated that she's wishy-washy on AEW in the past, in the sense that as soon as, you know, she had the option to go back to WWE, she did. So I don't know if that means that she maybe didn't really want to go there, or if that means that now AEW isn't necessarily interested because she did that. But her going back to Japan, I also think makes a lot of sense at this point. So I think those two I can kind of tie together. Do you have any points on those?
Yeah, I think that what you were saying about Bea Priestley with Stardom versus Marigold, I think that when we were thinking about the things that she said in interviews about wanting to, you know, take some time and go around the world and show off a little bit, I think that Stardom is a better option within the general pro wrestling landscape right now for that. And Marigold, both as like looking within the companies of their health. I think that Stardom is in a stronger position right now. I think that overall, Bushiroad has had a weak year. but Stardom has had a pretty strong year.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, for B, I think that is a good option. It keeps plates spinning for her of doing shows at other promotions internationally. I think far better than signing with Marigold would. For example, doing shows in the UK with partner promotions of Bushiroad, like RevPro, where she does have some history as well. And then I think that the way that she would be booked seems like they have an idea of what they want to do with her, too. I think that Marigold, I think that Rossi probably has an idea of what he wants to do with his roster, even if it doesn't seem like it from the outside. Thinking that he has an idea of who he wants to push specifically, and it doesn't seem like he wants to get new talent in the door right now. So that I think that makes sense for B Priestley. For Dakota Kai, it doesn't seem like AEW is significantly interested in signing her at the moment. Unfortunately for her, because I think that she could fit in the roster pretty well. You look at the Triangle of Madness, I think that she would fit in with that group pretty well. She brings a Joshi flavor of wrestling with her style, despite her size. I think that she would work really well stylistically with the direction that AEW's women's division has been going. So I think that, though, based off that, though, at the same time, she has experience and time with Stardom previously, so in Japan. So why not go back there if they're willing to bring you in? They could use some extra people on the roster, honestly, too, for that matter. So I'm not surprised. And yes, in the chat, Universal, how are you both today is the question. I am good. Doug, how are you?
I am also doing excellent.
So yeah, I think that those are the quick hits of the Stardom tracking folks there. I would say that B Priestley, yeah, we can just call her confirmed jump as far as the tracker is concerned. Dakota Kai, she was at probable, so above the toss-up line. Do you think that probable is still a good place for her, of her chances of signing somewhere long term?
Yeah, I think
probable is right? Like,
yeah.
I think that, like, if we're, because you have to remember.
I considered that, and then, because here's the thing, sometimes when I vote on these things, I try to, they're difficult votes, and then we have these discussions, and then I have to rethink these things. But generally, I agree, and I think that I'd say probable.
Yeah, I think that we don't have enough info to push her up to likely. But I think that it's probable, specifically with Stardom, that I think Dakota Kai will sign pretty soon, I think, to a promotion long term. And that's another thing to remember with all of this, is like, it's kind of like a two-stage process of thinking about the talent now. We have to first think, is this talent somebody noteworthy enough that we want to put them on the tracker and talk about them each and every week? And then from there, it doesn't matter where they sign at that point. It's like just a matter of, do we think it's probably going to happen? And I think with Dakota Kai, she's somebody notable enough that we're talking about her every single week. And I think that it's probable that she would sign with somebody pretty soon.
And I think it's also, we should talk about the fact, and just to reiterate, Stardom signed a foreign talent to a contract. That is something we have not seen in a long time.
Yes.
So
that's pretty big for them.
Right. So the fact that they're doing that now, that you have to kind of reevaluate a lot of women that are in wrestling right now. It's like, okay, well, that's something Stardom is doing.
Yeah, and it's an international woman as well. It's not like they've put Sari under pen and paper. It's that they've now signed somebody that was a free agent floating internationally.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a big point.
Universal in chat says, I have heard that Dakota Kai is re-signing with TKO. Where did you hear that? And maybe we can discuss that if you could tell us where you heard that one. We would love to talk about that more.
Yeah. Right now, they cut her. Twice. Yes,
they've cut her multiple times now. They did re-sign her back, but yes. How about we talk about Priscilla Kelly keeping it within the circles of Japan? Next up here, I think that going and doing stuff with Tokyo Joshi Pro points me more in the direction of that it's more likely than not she's getting a long-term contract with somebody, that she might be sticking with being freelance. What do you think?
I think when you work Tokyo Joshi Pro, they don't necessarily have any alignment, in my opinion, at this point. I don't know that they're signing anyone. A lot of people go over there and work independent. So to me, this says she's not signing anywhere.
Okay. I feel similarly. So I would say this moves her down below the toss-up line for me. I think that it's putting it more possible that she would sign long-term with somebody. I think that it's more likely than not that she will continue freelancing around the world, which is positive for her, that she's getting bookings internationally.
Yeah, I'd put her at, I think possible's fair as well, because she's a workhorse. She's going to keep working because she always has.
Yeah.
It's not like she's slowing down.
Yeah.
So, but I think possible is a fair spot for her.
How about we talk about Maki Itoh then in this moment as we're pit stopped in Tokyo Joshi Pro. Maki Itoh's contract with the promotion has expired. It was an official announcement by Tokyo Joshi Pro saying that she has left the company. What do we think is going to happen with her? So just as context also for people that are tuning in, Maki Itoh has made a bit of a name for herself on the American indies, specifically with GCW. Do you think that, first off, Maki Itoh is somebody noteworthy enough that we should be putting her on the tier list? I think so.
I do. I mean, there's not many people that, are doing the indie thing and will pop up in GCW that I think are noteworthy enough. She's one of them though.
Yeah, I think like her, Matt Cardona. If there is any chance of Nick Gage going somewhere, he's noteworthy enough, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But those are the two that I would consider if there was stuff coming up that I'd kind of raise my eyebrow at. But Maki Itoh is one that is interesting because she was somewhat featured in AEW for a while. But it also seems like they never really got entirely behind her. It seemed like some people in the company liked her and others didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know that she necessarily fits the vibe of AEW at this point with their women's division. So that is the question of would she fit in WWE? And now I know there's some people that would argue that she would fit perfectly in WWE.
I'm one of those people.
Yes. Now, I understand that. And now here's how I'm going to frame this. And why I think that she could, but I also think it would be a complete upending of her gimmick. Because now some people might say, what are you talking about? Her gimmick is like tailor-made for WWE. I would argue that she would have to tone down the swearing, and she would have to tone down the stuff where she's outright kind of raising a middle finger, so to speak, to idol culture. Whereas in WWE, I think it risks essentially just her being an idol.
No, I disagree. I think that you could literally just copy paste her into NXT tomorrow and just tell her, hey, you can't swear. That's it. That's it. You're done. She's perfectly made for NXT. It's done. That's her gimmick.
I think I would need to see it.
She could just, instead of doing like the finger, she could do like a 2. She could do like and like they can do a middle finger on NXT. It's not like they can't do it. People do middle fingers in WWE still.
Yeah, and she'll still. I mean, I guess she'll still be, screaming and being angry.
Yeah, and like it still is like a funny thing to do. Like like it is still within the WWE gimmick model to be like, okay, so I'm going to be like, oh yeah, you guys think that this is what Japan is, and so like we're going to play up the fact that this is what the audience thinks it is, and then we're going to be like subverting that by being like, no, I'm just an asshole person who like flips you off and like likes pain and stuff. You know, like that. It's silly. It's funny. It's fun. It's like it works. Like I think this is my hot take. It's my hot take.
Okay.
Tokyo Joshi Pro is a sports entertainment company.
And DDT as well.
Yes.
I've made this argument for so long. DDT people get so mad that it's like DDT is WWE in Japan.
DDT isn't WWE in Japan to me, though. I think that it is very more blatantly comedy coded than WWE would ever go. It is if the hardcore / 24/7 titles became a promotion.
Sure.
But
I mean,
which means that you
has a strong upper card.
Yes, and it still means that you still have serious matches, just like the hardcore title had real matches. You know, it's like if ECW had comedy matches.
Yeah.
You know.
And then yes, this is true. And then here's the thing with Maki Itoh. I agree with your point. I just am very.
I don't think that people
turn into Saray.
Yeah, I just don't think that people want to admit that the gimmick is sports entertainment, because like it's like she has gotten improved in ring since she did her AEW work.
Yeah.
So she is a much better performer in ring than she was then, but people don't want to pigeonhole her into being just a sports entertainment gimmick person.
She is, but here's the thing.
So like that's my take, is that like I think that she would work very well in WWE. I don't think that she's going to become a magical girl, because the thing is that Sari had.
Well, she was Saray there, so you're right.
But she, as Sari, her gimmick was just, I'm a good wrestler, right?
Yeah.
And going into WWE, they're like, okay, but we need something here for you as Sari. So we're going to make you're a Magica girl. That's it. Yeah, that's the ticket. You know, like they didn't have something, so they had to put something on it, right? So like look at the people that they brought in since then. Okay, bring in Jordan Grace. What's Jordan Grace's gimmick? Before in TNA, what was her gimmick?
Just powerhouse.
Yeah. Okay. So what's her gimmick in WWE?
Well, powerhouse, but also apparently now after Heatwave, she's also powerhouse, but apparently like ugly.
Well, no, that's been the thing that like that's the contrast with the Blake Monroe thing, where it's like, oh yeah, you have to be pretty to be a superstar, and like the story is going to go in the direction of that, like Jordan Grace doesn't need to be stereotypical WWE pretty to be a superstar. She can just be a badass. That's what the story is going to tell. Like, yeah, that's the point of the story. It's actually, when you look at it in the long term, it's going to be positive, but in the short term, it looks really bad. Julia. Her WWE gimmick was just, I'm Julia. I wrestle good. Stephanie Vacour, her gimmick was, I wrestle good. You know, like all these people that they're bringing in recently, free agency signings, Mariah May, Blake Monroe, have they changed their gimmick at all? Not really. They slightly changed it. It's a little bit different now.
It's if anything, it's shown that similar to Jade Cargill, AEW did a very good job of hiding her faults.
Yeah, Jade Cargill's gimmick didn't change.
Yeah. At
all. You know, so like I think that like if you're looking at the track record recently of WWE with free agency women, if either they're a strong wrestler or they have a strong gimmick, they're not changing it. Mm-hmm. You know, like they didn't change Ricky Starks' gimmick. They didn't like make him, like become somebody's manager or something like that. They didn't change Ethan Page's stuff at all. They didn't. They let Sean Spears keep his name and continue being a chair pervert.
And you know what? I'll even give you this. I bet they could keep the swearing and just like bleep it out.
Yeah, or like tell her you have to do it in Japanese.
Yeah, and even if they bleep it out, it'd probably be even funnier.
Yeah. So I think that they're like that's my hot take. on all this is that, like, and I know that it's a hot take, is that I think Maki Itoh, as is, works perfectly in WWE, and she would become a merchandising magnet for the.
Yes.
But do I think that there are high odds of that happening? No. I think that most likely thing for her, I think, is just freelancing forever.
She's making plenty of money.
She's probably making plenty of money on it. She's always getting bookings. She just needs to get a good sponsorship for Visa and stuff like that, and she'll be fine, just freelancing forever. So like and like also like, you know, if Tokyo Joshi Pro does tours, I'm sure that she could still appear with them freelance wise. She could do the other promotions in Japan freelance wise too. Like there's plenty of room for her as a freelancer, I think.
Yeah. All right. Any other people you want to talk about? Shayna Baszler, you said?
Yeah, Shayna Baszler was another one that we could touch on briefly, in Isla Dawn also. I think Isla Dawn. We have in chat a question about Maki Itoh. Is AEW off the table for her? I think so. Yeah, and Doug, you thought so too.
I think so. I think if they were going to bring her in, they would have done it years ago.
I agree with that specific version of that take. I think that, like, when I look at the people that it gets said that Tony Khan doesn't have interest in, like Toriano, there is a commonality, or using Danhausen.
Yeah.
There is a common thread. And I think that he might see the common thread with Maki Itoh. Now, as we said, her in-ring skills have improved over the past few years since she was in AEW, but I don't think that he notices or cares, to be quite honest. I think that if she were to go to AEW, we would know within the next month. And yeah, I think she would go. It's either she goes immediately to AEW or she doesn't go at all.
Yeah, I think you named like Maki Itoh, Toriano, Danhausen, Dan Shokudino. There's a certain type of comedy wrestler that Tony Khan just has no interest in.
Yeah, as TC says in the chat, you better be able to work like Orange Cassidy if you have a gimmick like that. Exactly. Like, you can't just be comedy. You have to be a solid wrestler who can do comedy at a high level. You can't just do comedy at a high level with AEW. That's the way that TK has been hiring recently and booking the company recently.
Yep.
So yeah, with Isla Dawn, she made an appearance on Collision. I think that it's just an appearance. What do you think?
Yeah, it's in her hometown.
Yeah.
And which, once again, that's no different than any other person who's gets an already in the ring gimmick. But
well, she didn't get an already in the ring. She got an entrance, yeah.
She did get an entrance, but I still don't think that means anything.
Yeah, I agree. I understand that our committee would like to put her on the tier list, though. So they feel that she is notable enough to put her on the tier list. I understand that. So being that, where would you put her on the tier list then, of the likelihood?
Like, I wouldn't put her on her, but if we were going to, I'd say remote.
Yeah,
I think it's a very remote chance.
Yeah, I think remote. And then with Shayna Baszler, she is now officially taking indie bookings, which is a change because she did do that stint of doing a little producer work, trying to see if that could work with a WWE, with NXT. Now she's taking indie bookings. Do you think that means that it's signaling that she is not going back to WWE?
It means, yeah. I mean, when I heard that she was doing the production work or just working as a producer backstage for matches, I thought that was okay. Maybe that's what she's going to be doing. I feel like something would have happened fairly quickly after that. And the fact she's taking any bookings makes me think that maybe that didn't work out.
Yeah, that's kind of my vibe on it too. Especially because I think it's Prestige is one of them. And they're not exactly they're not a WWE ID aligned indie, which is something that you want to chat on also. So I think also, for the record, with Shayna Baszler, I think possible seems fine for her right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't need a move. We don't need to move her.
So with WWE ID, we had a few people lose their status recently. WWE didn't retain them for another year as ID. I haven't seen anybody new be signed to ID deals. I don't think you have either.
No, and obviously after the the Raja Jackson, that's his name?
Yes.
Yeah, after that whole incident where the assault happened on the wrestler at the WWID aligned promotion.
Yes, it's Rikishi's. Yes.
Rikishi's promotion.
Yes.
They're no longer on there. They released a number of people following it. I think that this is going to be the start of WWE ID just slowly disappearing.
Yeah, it felt like it was a way for them to, like, looking in the context of when it started, it seemed like it was part of an expansion era for WWE to just see what would work. Because like they were throwing at the wall the Evolve. They threw it on Wednesday on Tubi. It hasn't caught like they all thought it would. They threw at the wall the LFG show.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about it.
And the thing with the WWE ID thing was I thought it could be something because I think promoters kind of were looking at it and saying, "Oh, we could put WWE on our posters."
Yes.
And nobody cares.
Well, okay, so TC asks, have they signed anybody to an ID deal since the first match? Not that we're aware of, no. I will say, having talking to some indie promoters recently, that some of them have been worried about using those kinds of talent because of how they're worried about having creative put upon them, even when it is somebody that essentially the structure, as we discussed here before in WrestleWatch, is that if you accept the money, or if you want to be able to put the WWE logo on your promotional stuff, you need to accept the money from WWE, and if you accept the money from WWE, you need to accept their booking notes, right? So if you want to put the WWE logo on your poster, you need to accept that WWE is going to have a say in how you book your show. And there are indie promoters that are concerned about that.
Understandably.
There are also ones that see who is trying out with WWE recently from their promotions and thinking to themselves, oh, this is a great way for me to push my promotion further. Is like, if I think that these people might get signed from a tryout to WWE, maybe the way that I get to still use them is by aligning myself closer to WWE, because then maybe they'll let them come back here. It's not as prominent
which is
a thing, but
gamble. It's a gamble in itself.
Yes.
Rossi can't even get anyone to come to Marigold.
Yeah, it seemed like that. From the way that the reports are coming around about how that all went down, it seems that WWE buttered Rossi up to get Julia. Mm-hmm. Which, too bad, so sad for Rossi. Yeah. So like this is kind of a good transition point to talk about what I'm calling European vacation, which is what I did last week. I went to.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I went to London for my annual sojourn for what usually was All-In weekend, but now was Forbidden Door weekend. So I went to the not Rev Pro schedule. You kind of had to choose which schedule you're going to do of promotions. My thought process was, well, if Rev Pro is going to be putting on real graps matches that are like AEW, then I can just go to AEW on Sunday and go to the fun stuff otherwise. So I went to Riot Cabaret on Friday. It was a very fun time. We had a fun match from Cara Noir versus Nina Samuels. Cara Noir has a school in London that Nina helps as a trainer at. So it was fun to see them work together in a match. There was an appearance by one Scotty Too Hottie at the show, where we found out also that his son Keegan, who appeared in the dark match in the Glasgow show with Scott, he is not signed to AEW. He's still training. They're trying to see if they can get him into ROH though. So that's something that's put on the radar a little bit. But also on that show, Pete Dunne appeared. He did a run-in. The crowd was conflicted. So it's something that I noticed this weekend in London, which was different from previous years. This is kind of business related, I think. So in previous years, All In was at Wembley Stadium, and it was a big enough show that people that are casual to AEW went to the show. Mm-hmm. And they could make a weekend out of it, or they'd take the train down or up or around to London, and come in for the show and then leave, Maybe pick up another show of the indies. This year, All In was not All In. It was Forbidden Door. It was a smaller show. Sold out a smaller venue, but still sold it out. 16 to 20,000 tickets sold for the show. The people that were going to that show were far more diehard AEW fans, not as much casual wrestling fans, right? Or casual to AEW, wrestling fans, right? The people that were those people were going to the WWE house shows and SmackDown in Dublin to Raw in Birmingham, right?
Right.
So, for example, on the Monday of the week, or on the on the Friday of the weekend, you could go to Dublin for SmackDown, or you could be in London and go to Ref Pro or Riot Cabaret, right? On the Monday, you could go to Birmingham for Raw, or you could stay in London for Progress, right? So, the people on Monday that are going to Raw are people that are WWE fans, right?
Correct.
What does that mean is left for Progress? It means that it's the people that aren't WWE fans. Whereas previous years, they would have casual AEW fans / actual WWE fans in London for that day. And they would go to the Progress show, right? So your audience is different from what you've prepared from previous years for this weekend. So at Riot Cabaret, previous years, they had a mixed bag fan base. It wasn't just AEW fans. It was every kind of wrestling fan was there for the show. And so everybody was just there to have fun and have a positive time. This time, it was almost no WWE first kind of fans. Those fans go into WWE shows. Mm-hmm. The fans that remain do not like WWE.
So they probably so I'm gonna guess Pete Dunne.
Yes.
Perhaps didn't get the reaction that he was hoping.
Correct. Yeah, he did not get the reaction they were hoping he would get. They were expecting a little bit more of the Holy S chants rather than "You sold out" chants that also happened. Scotty Too Hottie did a promo in the intermission of the show where he was like, thank you all for, letting me come here, and this wouldn't happen without the AEW show, and everybody was like, yeah, AEW. And it's such a great weekend though, because we're having so many options of wrestling. If you want to see any kind of wrestling here in London and in the UK, the world is centered on the UK right now, and you guys are so lucky to have AEW, and that's kind of why all these shows are happening this weekend. And also WWE is even coming into town, and everybody started booing. And he was meaning it in a positive way of you have any option you want. The crowd didn't like that. Similar thing happened on the Monday show at Progress, where they had a curtain call for Mike D Vecchio, who he was the Progress Atlas champion, which is their #2 championship. And they expected for after the match, after he loses the title, for him to get a nice curtain call, applause, and everything like that. They were budgeting a decent amount of time for it so that they could reset the ring and all those kinds of things for the next thing. And the applause did not go long. Then they had to run the next match video pretty quick, much quicker than they expected. They also had an advertisement for Wrestle Tours, which is a program that they do that is like a vacation booking strategy around WrestleMania. So every year they've done this. They book the flights for the people, they book the hotels, they book the tickets for WWE shows. They get tickets to the Progress show at the Collective, things like that. Got booed.
Yep.
They did not expect it to get booed. The crowd was not the crowd that they were expecting. And so there were multiple moments during the Progress show where they expected one reaction and a different thing happened. And I think that is something to think about with these counter-programming things that WWE is doing, is that they aren't necessarily, and this is something that a lot of people have pointed out, like Dave Meltzer, like I've seen on Going in Raw, they've mentioned this too, is that what's happening when you are doing these counter-programming is that you're not attracting new viewers. You're solidifying the viewers you already have. And you're also making people realize that there is another option.
And a lot of people like to cheer for the underdog. And you're showing that you are not the underdog when you do that.
Yeah. And the good news for all of these promotions is that I believe every single one of these shows that I've referenced sold out. And I think that there was Pro Wrestling Ceasefire, which is Mark Andrews' promotion, did pretty well on the Wednesday, it was on Wednesday or Thursday. Rye Cabaret, Eve, Rev Pro, Progress all sold out their shows. So even with having another option in the UK, all of them still sold out. I know that some of the promoters that I talked to over the weekend said that it was a little bit more difficult than previous years due to the WWE shows. And as I mentioned, their audience that they were getting was different from what they expected. But they still sold out. So that's the positive about it. But I think that's like the on-the-ground report that I have about how the counter-programming by WWE has been received and has worked for other promotions, is they're still able to get fans. It's not the same fans they expect to get, though.
Yeah, and we're probably talk on this a little bit more too in the coming weeks, especially as we see what happens with this HBO Max update.
Yes.
I think we'll maybe talk more about that when we get a little more info. But it looks like HBO Max is going to be hosting AEW pay-per-views.
Yeah. So the specifics on that. Yeah, specifics on that is that HBO Max just put out an email alerting people that there is going to be a change to the terms of service for HBO Max, which, if you read the language of it, essentially says that HBO Max will be having pay-per-view add-ons within HBO Max's platform, and it is lined up to become binding on 9/20, which is the same date as All Out. Additionally, this week, we just had a report, I think it was Post Wrestling noticed this on the TNT schedule for the week of All Out. On the Wednesday, there will be a 3.5-hour block of AEW on Wednesday. It will be billed as a regular Dynamite plus an hour of Collision plus 30 minutes of the Countdown to All Out special. Then on the Saturday at 7 p.m. in the middle of a Batman movie marathon, for some reason, they're cutting away from that. And they're going to be having something that they're calling like the tailgate, the AEW tailgate for All Out. So when you think tailgate, you think, oh yeah, is there like a football game and they're using this as lead-in maybe? Because that's what they did last night with Collision. They had Collision for 2 hours, and then it had a hard out. It was coast to coast airing because they had a hard out to do Arizona versus Hawaii's football game for the Big 12. So they figured out that Collision is a good lead-in, lead-out program with sports. So how about we have the football game at 10 p.m. proper, cutoff time. You have to finish your hard out, right? There is no football game on 9/20 at the current moment on the TNT schedule. No. It's just Batman movies. So, is this the pre-show for All In? Did they just rename the pre-show for All Out? Is there any business reason for WBD to put on the pre-show for All Out on TNT, other than if they're going to be carrying the pay-per-view in some manner?
Yes, I think it would make sense if, I could see a thing where WBD purchased the 0 hour rights and they're no longer on YouTube and now they'll be on TNT. Or
I could see that as a possibility, yeah.
And then maybe they renamed it the Tailgate, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I also think it's very possible that we're going to see a situation where like the old UFC ESPN deal where you could buy the pay-per-views through ESPN exclusively. I could see something like that. I don't know if it'll necessarily happen right away. I think that it's at least the exclusiveness of it, because I think they just started this thing with Amazon, and it feels weird if they would just drop that suddenly.
I think that the deal with Amazon has seemed like it's been positive for both parties, as far as I've been aware, from the reporting that we've seen. But I think that they still have the language with WBD, which would make it the preferred destination if and when they get the service onto HBO Max. It is still being reported and rumored that they would be at a reduced cost on HBO Max. So I could see a scenario where they would, promote the pay-per-views as, live on HBO Max or Amazon Prime, and just not mention any other pay-per-view provider.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's the most likely thing, and then they would mention the other ones, on the pre-show, here are the other ways you can watch if you're international, that kind of thing. But on screen there would just have the logos for HBO Max, Amazon Prime, and that's it. I think that it would be a smart business move to do it for All Out when the WWE is getting lambasted for the cost increase between Peacock to ESPN. Especially if they can get the cost of the pay-per-view to be less. When you add up HBO Max plus the pay-per-view, if it can be equal to the cost of ESPN monthly, $30 total, that, and that also, if it's $20 then for the pay-per-view, that makes it the same price as the VPN method.
And then the other thing to keep in mind is and this will be my last point on this, is if this becomes a situation where WBD purchased the pay-per-view rights, they're still selling them the way that ESPN and UFC did, and AEW is now having guaranteed money for the pay-per-views. It also becomes a question of, well, why is WWE even counter-programming anymore? Because it's guaranteed money to them. They're not really messing them up.
Well, with AEW, if in the scenario that they will be, because the pay-per-view rights were part of the contract that they signed with WBD, the extension, or the new contract. So the ability for HBO Max to put the pay-per-view for an added cost on HBO Max was in the rights that they received. So it's already baked into the contract that they already have. I presume that the money from the pay-per-view then would get split in some manner between WBD and AEW. I don't know what that manner is or anything like that, but the ability for HBO Max to have the pay-per-view as an option of purchase on HBO Max is already in the contract. So they're already getting paid for it right now. If anything, it's more on HBO to like actually get their stuff together and get it on the service because they're already paying for it, and they can make more money by getting the pay-per-view on there. So anyway, yes. Going back to the European vacation topic. Now talking about talent. Well, I referenced Mike D Vecchio. He left Progress, or left Europe entirely, it seems. This was his last match, as far as we are aware, within Europe as a free agent. He dropped the Proteus title. He had, the Atlas title. He previously had the, I think it was the WXW tag title with Azrael Blanc, and they also had dropped those previously. I personally don't think that Mike D Vecchio is notable enough to put on the tier list, personally.
I agree. I mean, it sounds like he's going. Yeah, I agree. I think he's below the line, and I think that he's not someone that we necessarily need to track.
However, our committee would like us to put him on the tier list. So, given that, where would you put him on the tracker?
I mean, I think he's likely to go.
I think
likely.
Yeah, I think likely, and that's exactly where Zozaya is currently. Zozaya is the other, and I would say the bigger name within European wrestling that is due to sign with WWE. That is the phrasing we've had this entire time, is that they're not signed, they're due to sign, which is very weird phrasing, very weird timeline, that they're all due to sign at the same time in September. It's bizarre to me. It makes me feel like that they have other plans going on, or that they were planning things that may not happen with like an NXT Europe or something like that. But yeah, if Zozaya is at likely, then I would put Mike D Vecchio also at likely. And I think that gets us through the people that we're putting on the tracker. So how about we put on screen right now our lovely Pro Wrestling Free Agency tracker, which has been newly updated for this week. We can run down the tracker now. It's been posted as well.
Do you mind running it down?
Yeah, no, yeah. So we have certain, nobody's certain currently. And likely we have Ninja Mac, who some people were mentioning they were conflicted about where to put Ninja Mac. As a reminder, coming up, New Japan and Stardom are doing a historic crossover show that they're going to be doing in China, and Ninja Mac is on the poster for it as a New Japan person, which I find very interesting. And also as a reminder, he was not being featured in the G1 tour because he is not a heavyweight. So that kind of explains why he's been off the card recently. We also have in likely Zozaya, Joe Hendry, and Mike D Vecchio. I think that tier makes perfect sense. Everybody kind of works together, right?
Yeah.
Probable, we have Dakota Kai, Danhausen, and Miyu Yamashita. Toss-up, we have Michael Oku and Rio of British Wrestling. Michael Oku had finally got his AEW proper in-ring debut at Forbidden Door when he teamed up with Jet Speed. He then did he's down in Mexico currently for the weekend. He is technically representing Rev Pro during that time, but he's the only Rev Pro representative, really. I guess Robbie X kind of counts as that as well. I wouldn't mind moving him up a rung again. Possible, we have Private Party, Sari, Chris Jericho, Priscilla Kelly, and Shayna Baszler. Unlikely, we have Gabe Kidd, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bailey, Deanna Purrazzo, and Masha Slamovich. I think next week we might be moving Deanna Purrazzo down or off, possibly.
Yeah, especially just what we've heard about her and the schooling and.
Well, Tony Khan gave the longest response ever in a press conference.
He's giving her another shot. She's going to get another shot. So it definitely sounds like she's sticking around.
So at Death Before Dishonor, they had a first-round match in the women's pure title bracket. Queen Aminata beat Taya Valkyrie, I believe, was the matchup that we saw. And then after the match, Deonna Purrazzo came out. She has a first-round matchup as well to come, which kind of signals that she's going to win that first-round matchup. So I think that, it seems that they do have a plan for what they would like to do with Deonna within the AEW Ring of Honor sphere. And then down in remote, we have Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Bishop Dio, Karrion Kross, Persephone, Leon Slater, Saraya, The Miz, Isla Dawn, and Maki Itoh. Sami Zayn just won the U.S. title in WWE, which might be a signal that maybe he might be sticking around there. In fact, there were some scoopsters, I'll call them, rumor mongerers, who were trying to say that this was originally going to be a World Heavyweight Championship reign and that politicers got the belt first. AJ, as it's been mentioned, his deal is a re-signing through next summer, or possibly at the latest next summer, so that's why he's still on. It's within a year still. Not much action with Bishop Dyer. Karrion Kross has been picking up indie bookings, so it seems like it's real that he's actually left WWE.
Yeah, I think so too.
Persephone, as people have pointed out, I think it was Dave Meltzer said in his review of Forbidden Door that he hopes that Persephone and Bozilla have hard contracts with their promotions.
Well, I mean, they definitely did a good job of making them both look very good, which is a good way to get other people interested.
Yeah, I think Bozilla, that was probably the best she's looked in a match.
They definitely did a good job of highlighting her.
The crowd went very wild for her.
Yes.
And yeah, the rest, I don't really have much to say about the rest down there in the remote tier. We covered a few of them here today on the program as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for the show.
Yeah,
Anything else you need to add?
No, and I'll just bring the camera back on. I think that wraps it up for us this week on WrestleWatch. If you haven't already subscribed to us here on YouTube or on the podcasting platform that you're currently listening to us on, please do so. Subscribe, like, whatever, ring the bell, whatever they say these days. And until next time, I'm Ryan.
And I am Doug.
Hope that you guys continue watching